available. All right. Well, thank everyone for joining tonight. Tonight we will have Dr. Lucero and a panelist of speakers regarding the district school calendar. And if panelists, if you would like to introduce yourselves to start off, and then Dr. Lucero, if you have anything to add, and we can begin.
Why don't we start with Mr. Elam?
Hello, everyone. My name's Archie Elam. I am a graduate of West Point, veteran of the Gulf War, and former commander of the Fairfield County Veterans of Foreign Wars. I represented about 3,500 veterans in that role. And I was fortunate enough to be elected to the school board here in Stamford for a stint, and then the Connecticut Veterans Hall of Fame. So glad to be here, and I have to give a public thanks to Kathleen Steinberg, who was great at herding up all the cats on this. Look forward to the session.
Corcoran, would you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is John Corcoran. I am the president of the Stamford Education Association, which represents approximately 1,500 teachers here in Stamford. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, John. Rabbi Hammerman.
Yes, hi. Rabbi Joshua Hammerman of Temple Bethel in Stamford. Been here a long time, and a conservative congregation, which sort of puts us in the middle of the road in terms of the observance level. But I'm here really to be a consultant, as I'm not sure that there are any direct scheduling concerns regarding the Jewish community for this particular year. But you know, we'll get that as we go along.
Thank you. Reverend Lingle.
Hello, thank you for having me. Mark Lingle, I'm the rector at St. Francis Episcopal Church in North Stamford, and also connected with the Interfaith Council of Southwestern Connecticut. I suppose one of the big things I do is to also convene the clergy of Stamford for our monthly meetings. Glad to be a part of the conversation.
Thank you. Dr. Lucero, who needs no introduction, but go ahead anyway.
Dr. Lucero, Superintendent of Stamford Public Schools, really happy to have this panel come together and have this discussion tonight. I think that it will be helpful for us to not just talk about for next school year, because we've really settled on a calendar for this school year, but in school years to come. So if we can get some feedback as Rabbi Hammerman pointed out, the Rosh Hashanah holiday actually falls on the weekend this year, but we want to make sure that we have conversations for future years. So thank you all so much for being here with us tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Lucero. And finally, Imam Nasser, please. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, hi everyone. This is Imam Ashraf Nassar, the Imam of Islamic Culture Center of New York. Also, I am a father. My kid or my child goes to Hart School. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And with that, I think we can turn it over to Dr. Lucero and begin our discussion and presentation.
We do have one hand raised. I just want to make sure that it's not a mistake. Alfred, did you have something before we get started?
Yes, I just wanted to introduce myself, Dr. Alfred Fusco. I was past president of Unico National in Stamford and a member of the National Board of Directors of Unico and the chairman of the Columbus Coalition of Stamford. And we have an interest in the school calendar, and at an appropriate time, I'd like to let you know what our feelings are.
Thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And yes, everyone's voice will be heard this evening. Although we do have a panel, we are opening this up so that this can be more of a discussion, so that we can all have a voice in some of the conversation that's going to happen tonight. So when we are making recommendations to our Board of Education, who has the authority to make this final decision, we will have all voices involved. So thank you so much for joining tonight.
Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to walk you through a PowerPoint presentation. Oh, I think I see another hand raised. Does someone have? Oops, maybe it's just an accident.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, my name is Maisam Noor, and also I would like to say something as a parent about the Eid
Sure.
holiday.
Sure. Oh, you mean when we get started? Okay, great. Yes, great. We'll have some more people speak out. And if I don't see your hand raised, I have a lot of things going on in front of me right now. So just make sure that if I don't call your name, please just unmute yourself and we will be very informal here tonight. I want to first thank PT Council for letting us be a part of their monthly meeting. I really appreciate that they're always partners to us. Tracy, Zoreen, Marie, you all have been great partners. And so I just want to thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. And I do want to thank our panelists and everyone's, because we will have some time to talk through this. This is a very complicated subject, and we just want to make sure that all voices are heard. So I'll go to the next slide, Kathleen, maybe 2 slides up.
Do you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, well, on my screen, it's still on the first slide.
Okay, let me either jump out and jump back. My screen is frozen according to Kim.
Okay. That's okay. I know how to make do until you get here. So I'm just going to go over some information about state statute. Now, I think everyone knows that we are required to have 180 days of school. Stanford Public Schools actually schedules for 181 days of school, and that's helpful to us sometimes when we need to make some adjustments. But that's under state statute, it's only 180 days. And one of the things that's really interesting under state statute is it talks about all the holidays that are available on our calendar, starting from Martin Luther King Day and going all the way down to December 25th, which is the Christmas holiday. But it also speaks about the fact that all holidays are under local control, except for holidays that fall in January and December. I'm not sure if everyone knew that, but that was interesting information for me. And so the whole state statute is in this PowerPoint presentation. So if you would like to read through that at some point, that will be available online. We will post that for everyone to be able to review. If we go to the next slide, this is actually a copy of our, Kathleen, do you think I'm still on the same slide?
Kathleen, can you make us, okay.
She might be having some technical difficulties. So I will go on. I know how to punt in these situations. So everyone has really seen our calendar for last year. And the only thing that we really want to point out is one of the things that several people have reached out to me about is the continuity of education when in the months of September, October, November. As everyone knows, there were 2 days off of school last week. We were off for Election Day. Our teachers were in school with us for a PD day. And then everyone was off for, I'm sorry, for Election Day, and then Veterans Day was on Friday. We also, in the month of October, were off for Columbus Day and Yom Kippur. And then in, of course, everyone knows that we were off for Labor Day at the beginning of the year, and then 2 days for Rosh Hashanah. And so the continuity of education, there are those who have concerns for it. And so asked if we would consider having this conversation that I think we have every few years to kind of talk about the different holidays and whether or not we should be in school you know, observing those holidays and having time that we can talk about those holidays with the students, or does it make sense to be off? So when we're considering the calendar, we'll go to the next slide. We think about the continuity of instruction, recognition of religious holidays and cultural celebrations, opportunity to integrate the holidays into the curriculum. I know that I went to many Veterans Day celebrations this year, and the schools do such a nice job of inviting our veterans in and celebrating. So we want to note whether or not we should do that on the actual holiday. Educators and staff needs, we want to be cognizant of that, as well as our families and caregivers. The mandated 180 days that I talked about, and contractual requirements. And what we mean by contractual requirements is that some of our contracts with our unions, so our para union or our OSS union or our teacher union, may specifically say, well, not so much the SEA union, but our administrator union, that specifically says the days that they can be off, and sometimes Veterans Day or Columbus Day will be included in that. So we would have to go back and have conversations with those unions before we could officially change the calendar. So if we go on to the next slide, we did a little bit of research here, and I just want to walk you through that. We looked at how many PD days, because most school districts have PD days before the school year gets started, which is counted in the amount of school days that may be a part of each of our staff members' contracts. So there are 3 days at the beginning of the school year for, and just so you know, these are the calendars that are available right now. We are constantly looking for the calendars that have been posted from our neighboring school districts. So CES, Darien, Greenwich, New Canaan, Trumbull, and Westport are the school districts that have posted their calendars for the 2023-2024 school year thus far, and we will keep adding to this list. The first day of school for next year for those school districts, it looks like the majority of them are on August the 29th. All are off for Thanksgiving Day. It looks like for about 2.5 days, meaning there's a half day on Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Winter break looks like they're consistent with 6 days. February break, it is a mix. We have some people who take the entire week off plus an extra day. And I do want to note here, and I really want to thank some teachers from Strawberry Hill worked with me yesterday to look at this calendar and give me some feedback before we presented it to you. And so one of the things we do want to note here is that some of these days may be PD day. One of the days may be a PD day. So when you see 6 days, it's usually a PD day and then 5 days off for the February break. And then we have spring break that lasts for 5 days in these districts that are listed. And then you see a mix of the last day of school. Remember, there's 180 days of school. So depending on how many of holidays you might take off, it tells you where you might fall in actually getting out of school. Now, remember, this is before Dr. Lucero has to call those inclement weather days also. So we have to be very careful about that. And that's just my joy, the favorite part of my job. So let's look at the next slide. So this gives you some sort of indication as currently what our neighboring school districts do. If you see Labor Day, everyone's off for Labor Day. Columbus Day actually, or Indigenous People Day, some people have used both terminologies. And so they have, Trumbull is the only one who currently takes that off. But remember, this is just the calendars that we have thus far. Election Day, most people take it, well, it looks like all of these take it for a PD day, and so does Stanford at this time. Veterans Day, no one takes that off at this point of these that are listed. Thanksgiving, everyone takes it off. Christmas, it is required, as we have just learned from our state statute. So is New Year's Day is required, and Martin Luther King Day is required. It looks like most people take President's Day off, and it looks like everyone takes Memorial Day off. So that just kind of gives you a sense. Again, these are only the ones that we were able to, well, the ones that have been published thus far. Please note that Juneteenth is currently outside of the school year usually, but with snow days, we would have to consider that. And then Independence Day, of course, is July 4th, and we must be done with school before June 30th. And we have to have made up all of our days before June 30th. Okay. All right, so this is some of the religious holidays that are available for us to look at. If you look here, and remember, we took the information for Rosh Hashanah from this school year, what people are doing, because for the 2023-24 year, Rosh Hashanah does fall on the weekend. So it looks like most of these districts have the first day of Rosh Hashanah off, not the second day of Rosh Hashanah. Yom Kippur looks like it is off for everyone. Diwali at this point is not off. I attended a phenomenal Diwali celebration on Sunday with my husband, John. And so I know that was mentioned while I was there, that New York City is going to recognize it as a holiday a school holiday starting next year. Christmas, as you can see there, everyone takes that off, which is required. Three Kings Day, no one at this point takes that off. Good Friday. Please note with Good Friday, we were trying to determine if it was independent or if it is attached to the spring break. And this year, Good Friday, for the 2023-24 holiday, calendar, it is March 29th. And so that's very early for spring break. So most people are taking spring breaks later. For the Eid holiday, there are no one that is currently taking that off, but I did have many of our Muslim families come and have a great discussion with me for last year. And I know that that's something that we want to consider. And then Passover, it looks like at this point that there is one school district, Greenwich, that plans on taking it off for the 23-24 school year. So this is the proposed calendar. And let me first say, all we did was remove some of the holidays. I want you to know that this is very rough right now, and no decisions have been made, but we needed a starting point to talk about where we may be able to celebrate some of the holidays while we're in school, and some of the holidays we would be off. And so I'll just walk you through some of the thoughts right now. Is that we would be off for Labor Day and Yom Kippur. We acknowledge the fact that Rosh Hashanah does fall on the weekend for next year. We are considering having the Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day holiday within while kids attend school. We are looking at Election Day still being a day off, but and also going to school for Veterans Day, however, celebrating that during while we're in school. Then it looks like we would have a half day before on Wednesday. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong month. That's Thanksgiving. I'm thinking that's Christmas already. So that is, we do the same thing we did this year, which is half day on Wednesday and then Thursday and Friday off, which matches our neighboring towns. And then it looks like we would start the winter break on the 23rd, which just happens to be Dr. Lucero's birthday, if anyone wanted to note that anywhere. Then we have, we would be off for the 1st of January, which is New Year's Day. And then for Martin Luther King Day, which is required by state statute. And then we have the February break. This is a change, and I forgot to mention something that is also a change. At the beginning of school year, we're recommending having an additional day for teachers to prepare their classrooms. There has been a great addition in the amount of training that teachers have to take in order at the beginning of the school year and just getting their classroom ready, that we think that might be very helpful to them. But we would take it from the February break. So we would have off Friday, Monday, and Tuesday in February for everyone. And usually Tuesday is a teacher work day for PD, but we're proposing moving that to the beginning of the year. As I stated earlier, Good Friday falls on Friday the 29th of March. And so we would have that day off. The Eid holiday is the 10th of April. And so that is a consideration. I do want to note that most school districts have off the 15th through the 19th. However, Trumbull, which is has posted their calendar already. Theirs is the 8th through the 12th, just so everyone is aware of that. All other school districts that I showed have the 15th through the 19th off. And then in May, of course, we would be off for Memorial Day. And then that would, if we stuck to this calendar, it would have us getting out of school without any inclement weather days on the 10th of June. Did I miss anything, Kathleen?
No, I think you got everything.
Okay, here we go. Thank you. All right, let's go to the next page. So this is the information that I just went over with you. It just includes Stanford and what that would look like in all of those scenarios. So I'll give you a minute to look at that. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. And this is just a list of all of the holidays that and when they fall for this school year. So, and some other information. All right, we'll go to the next slide. I think that might be it.
That was our last slide.
Great, wonderful. So we'll go ahead and take down the slide so we can have some conversations. I'm going to start with our panelists. If any of our panelists have any thoughts about the proposed calendar or anything that you would like to share with us, I'll just open it up at this time. And you can just jump right in. Just unmute yourself.
This is, Mark Lingle from St. Francis and the Interfaith Council. Thank you for the presentation and for the work on this. I don't envy that job at all. I do think that the concern from parents about having continuity is really, really important. And obviously that's something that you work really hard to create in the calendar for the coming year. And I applaud you for that. I am from a tradition that has been culturally dominant. And so, you know, I think the calendar defers to the Christian calendar a fair amount, and that there's perhaps opportunity for space to be made. Obviously, as you said, Christmas and New Year's are required, and those are holy days within the Christian calendar. I think that Good Friday is the holiest day, you know, but in terms of how it's practiced, to be honest, I don't know that it's as critical as it once was. And, you know, as somebody who's joining together with another congregation so that we can have a service and have limited number of people attending, part of me from that, you know, as a devout Christian says, if people are voting with their feet, they're not voting necessarily to go. Therefore, there is an opportunity for people to make a change and to allow people to make the choice to go. And, you know, if I were in that position, I would certainly take the day off. But given the culture that we live in, it is not one that, again, my experience is that the Good Friday service is not as attended as it once was. The other thing I would also applaud, and I know it's difficult in making the decision, but many of the school districts that you cited are hardly anywhere near as diverse as Stamford. And I think that that is something that needs to be celebrated in terms of the strength of this community. And while it is difficult in terms of trying to balance everything, it also is expressive of how rich the culture is here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your words.
Hi, it's Rabbi Hammerman. If I can just jump in and
Great, thank you.
thank Reverend Lingle for his comments too. I think this is an amazing community, and I really want to just say how much I appreciate how this is being framed. I did a similar program for the Board of Ed, a panel several years ago, and it was me. It was a veteran, and it was someone from the Italian community, and it was almost like a game show. They were trying to figure out, you know, which day is going to be off, and that was not what I was looking for. So this shouldn't be seen as a zero-sum game, pitting different groups against one another. And I really want you to know that I understand that. And I think the Jewish community understands it. So I want to indicate where, you know, the priorities would be. For instance, Passover, I don't think we've ever had off unless it happened to fall during the vacation week. Even though it is a major Jewish holiday, and the two first nights of Passover, the first night and second night, involve seders that often go very late into the night. So that is a factor, but I would not, you know, push hard for that to be a day off, since it never has been. On the other hand, this year we don't have to deal with it, but Rosh Hashanah, especially for the more traditional Jewish community, the second day of Rosh Hashanah, I mean, both days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are the high holidays for a reason. They are the most important holidays, without question. But the second day is as holy as the first day. And I think a lot of times communities don't realize that, in part because for Reform Jews, it's a large segment of the Jewish community, it is not observed as widely as the first day. So it's understandable that some within the Jewish community, maybe even, you know, on this Zoom, would not see the second day as important. But I can tell you that for a conservative congregation, certainly for an Orthodox congregation, that would be the case. and it would be an imposition for people to be forced, especially for students, but I'm thinking primarily in terms of numbers for teachers, to be forced to make a choice as to whether to observe those days in synagogue where they are primarily observed, or have to be at work.
Thank you.
Tamu.
Yeah, thanks, John.
Hi, and thank you all again for joining us. I shiver a little bit when I bring up the teacher's perspective, because sometimes it's a difficult one to deliver. Tamu and I have talked about the calendar on and off for a few months, and we love, just so that you know, the idea of getting there a day earlier and letting the teachers get their rooms ready. The big one about all the training, mandated training that's required before we actually jump into teaching and learning PD and some other things. And at the same time, allowing the teachers to have that same February break as the students. We've discussed for years the Veterans Day and the Columbus Day. And I've taught 20 years, both in elementary and the secondary. We would love to have, and we count it as a blessing when the veterans can come in and celebrate Veterans Day with us. But we would certainly love to do it on that day when it falls during the week. We think it's very important to do that, to celebrate that, and do that with them on the day that is recognized. And at the same time, we do want to, I think by taking away some of the days, it allows us to add in other holidays to recognize the diversity of our population here in Stamford. And as you were saying, Reverend, so eloquently, for a time I lived in Darien, it was totally different. But in this large city that we work in and live in, we have to find the gentle balance, because we do it in the classroom with our students, and it's important to do that and recognize that throughout the community. I think what ends up happening, and I heard a couple of you say to Dr. Lucero, I don't envy you. I don't envy her either when it comes to the calendar, because unfortunately for Tamu, it's a lose-lose situation, because she's going to make some people, not happy in many respects. But I think we try something 1 year, and if it doesn't, bode well, Tamu and I talk about this all the time. We go back and we look at it again, and then we go back and we look at it again, and then we go back and we look at it again, until it may take time. It may take 2, 3, 4 years for us to finally find a way that works. And thank you. I just wanted to let you know that's what the teachers of Stamford have been thinking. So thank you.
Thanks, John. And I really appreciate a few of your members sat with me yesterday, and that was very helpful in framing some of this. So thank you. All right.
Madam Chairman, can I?
Absolutely. Always. I will defer to you.
Thank you, ma'am. I intentionally wanted to wait to the end here to kind of listen to where things were. I heard the mention about Veterans Day from the teacher's perspective. So let me offer a couple of thoughts on that, and then on sort of the wider window around Veterans Day. I hear you, sir, on a wish to have all things Veterans Day executed on Veterans Day. There are some very practical and often high impact challenges with executing that from the veteran side. First is scheduling. If someone can get all the folks who want veterans to come and do things in the same room, and have everybody come out with one calendar where things aren't conflicting. Example, you get an elementary school at 8, and you get a high school at 8. Right? It's deconflicting that kind of stuff. Second, the the subject around veterans and Veterans Day touches centrally on social studies, history. I sat on the school board when the conversation around what to do with Veterans Day was very high voltage. Like we had Fox News sitting in a school board meeting, high voltage. I would not suggest messing with that anymore. Leave it where it is. The veterans are collectively more than happy, more than willing, more than interested in engaging with students in schools, engaging with teachers, and the rest. That is not at all an issue. As I mentioned earlier, scheduling is one, and I think there's some space for putting all things Veterans Day into perspective with the rest of what we're looking to deliver on history, social studies, and such, and not have it sort of as a one-off. Happy to talk more about that if you want, sir, and certainly happy to support the district in what they're trying to do. But I did want to put a couple points about that on the table, and thank you to the superintendent on this draft calendar. It is an exercise in building character, depth, and patience to do one of these. And I think given all the competing interests and constraints, the proposed calendar that you put up for the next school year seems to capture an awful lot of very important things. So with that, I'll step back and either take a question or listen to the rest of the conversation.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Mr. Lazar, I think your hand is up.
Yes. Just I would like to say thank you so much, and I really appreciate your suggestions, your comments, and for including Eid al-Fitr for the holidays to be a day off. I would like also to share that as Muslims in Stamford, on behalf of the Muslims in Stamford, it becomes a very growing community. It's a very big community, teachers, students, and families, also refugees, Muslim refugees here in Stamford. I would like to say that for taking Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha, just these 2 days, it means a lot for the students because they feel they are included, they are accepted, they have the same rights of other beliefs, of other faiths. In Stamford also, they have the right, like other towns, Bridgeport, they take Eid al-Fitr as a day off. So we, on behalf of my community, I see and I appreciate, and I hope that you include Eid al-Adha also to be like Eid al-Fitr in your calendar. And I want to save your time, but so many points I would like to share with you tonight, but just to say that Muslim community now is growing, and we hope that the holidays should be included. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I will turn to Alfred now. I know that you had some things that you wanted to share, and I think we got through all of the panelists, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Would you like to go next? can you unmute? Oh, there you go. Great.
Okay. Is this a good time?
Yes, welcome. Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much for having this discussion. Very interesting, very diverse. Colonel Elam, it is Colonel. Yes, Captain Fusco. I spent 5 years in the service, 2 years active duty at the tail end of the Vietnam War. And it's a little disconcerting to me that two of the holidays that are basically American holidays, not religious, but American holidays, Columbus Day and Veterans Day, have been left off the calendar. We mistakenly say that Columbus Day is an Italian holiday, but I've researched Columbus. I know more about Columbus than anyone on this panel. And it was celebrated 80 years before the first Italian got to America. It's the original American holiday, and that's how it should be celebrated. It's the discovery of the New World, October 12th, the discovery of it wasn't Columbus's birthday. It wasn't the day he died. It was when he first set foot in the New World and joined two worlds together. That's what we celebrate. Without October 12th, 1492, there is no July 4th, 1776. We must keep these two holidays on the calendar. We must teach it to our children that these are American values, that these are important American values. And I in the strongest possible terms, and I see many of my members here on this panel, we have to speak not just as Italian American. The Italian American community, we're protectors of Columbus for the rest of the country. He's an American hero, and that's how we have to celebrate along with Veterans Day. So thank you for listening.
Yeah, I hear you, sir, on Veterans Day. I will not speak to Columbus Day. That's not my space. So let me be plain in what I was trying to say. It is a holiday. Moved from Armistice Day to Columbus Day. I'm sorry, to Veterans Day.
Yep.
And I have no problem with it being a holiday with folks off. In fact, that is how it reads on the current calendar. My point was on the content, right? Taking advantage of opportunities to help all of us better connect Veterans Day and veterans to the rest of America's history.
Exactly.
And its current events. I don't think that can be done to standard in one day. That was my second point. I don't think Veterans Day should be some version of a one-off.
Absolutely.
Right?
I agree.
We've seen it there in the past. And as I mentioned in the chat, answering some questions people were having, what it takes from the veteran side to go to the schools and make the addresses and all the other kinds of support really does take the space of the days before Veterans Day to do effectively. Now, I can't say that louder. I've lived through this holiday. I've been, I came to Stanford in 1995, 96. I watched both ends of this, lived through both ends of this, lived through 5 places to go all at once, and listening to, the guys all saying, oh, we love doing this, man, but I'm stretched too thin. I'm running from this school to that school, and it's not effective for the kids, not effective for the parents, the audiences. So I think, to be clear, and I'll step back, Veterans Day, holiday, space before Veterans Day is where the lineup of all these events and such can be done. And third, The conversation around, you mentioned integrating holidays with the calendar. I think that's an important area. Veterans and veteran stuff is, like I said, American history, right? That's what it is, American history. So beyond Veterans Day, finding ways to tie the example, geography, to what veterans do. I've stood in classrooms that had to explain to kids where Iraq and Afghanistan are, where the various spaces we were in World War II were. So there's an opportunity to take a veterans event and teach kids geography, right?
Gentlemen,
and culture. Those kinds of intersections that I think is a third piece of this.
Gentlemen, I'm going to pause right now. We're going to take some additional questions, okay? Mysam, I see you have your hand raised.
I do. Thank you, Tracy. Hi, everybody. So my name is Mysam, and I have two students in the Stanford Public School. I was one of the parents that met with you, Dr. Lucero, and me and a bunch of other groups of parents, and our children spoke. And one of the issues that I had as a parent is my child, like, for example, last year, she had her ASVAB test that she had to miss because we were celebrating the holiday. And this is something that really affects our children. They want to feel included. So I appreciate, Dr. Lucero, that you have Eid al-Fitr on the calendar, but we would also like you to consider Eid al-Adha, since that's our second biggest holiday. And again, we're only asking for that one first day to be celebrated. And it doesn't only help our children, but also there are teachers in the school, Stanford Public School, who again need to choose if they should take the day off or celebrate it with their family. So this is something that would make us feel like we are part of the community and involved. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank
the
you.
next hand raised is Gina.
Okay. Hey, good evening. I'm going to apologize because I wasn't able to join until a little while ago when Colonel Elam was speaking. So if what I'm saying might reflect that I missed some of the conversation, so I'll apologize for that. I think, my own view is certainly we are a much more religiously diverse country and community than we were decades ago. And we need to respect and fit in holidays for the, the non-Judeo-Christian religions that are, more represented now in our community. As an Italian American and also a politically progressive person, I definitely have some mixed feelings about Columbus Day. The history of the holiday is, actually, it arose in the 1860s when the first Sicilian immigrants were here, and they were regarded as Black, and there was a lynching of some Sicilians who had come over. And apparently Italy and the US almost went to war over it. And the president at the time declared Columbus Day as a holiday to kind of assuage that and make peace. And it has since become a big day of pride for Italian Americans. And it's been here a long time. And I share in the pride and I respect it. I also recognize that Columbus is not a hero to many people, and did some terrible things in the Caribbean, and that's actually where he landed first. So maybe I think it's hard, right, as a government and as a community to acknowledge both sides, but it's there. And I just want to be straightforward with what, its origins, at least, and the history of it, when we're thinking about whether to keep it as a holiday or not. And maybe a solution would be to extend the school year. I mean, he's not the only explorer who did horrible things either. So that's all I wanted to add to the conversation, but I appreciate the conversation. Thanks.
Thanks, Gina.
Okay, next hand raised is Kay Desai.
Yes, hi. My name is Kinjal Desai, and I'm a proud parent
of Newfield fourth grader. And Dr. Lucero, we did see you at the Diwali celebration at the library. My daughter was one of the performers. I'm sorry I don't have my video on because after a whole day of Zoom at work, I'm not video ready. So appreciate you taking the thoughtfulness, even mentioning Diwali. And I love the comments by Mr. Lingle, Mr. Corcoran, and Gina lately around the inclusive nature or approach that you're taking towards the calendar. And as you know, Diwali actually is a 5-day holiday, and it's celebrated. And next school year, it so happens to fall on a Sunday, so I cannot say gun-totingly, like at least consider it's a growing community and we have a lot of holidays. And along the same points of letting our kids feel more inclusive, I would make a humble request to consider to put Diwali as one of the holidays for school. Like New York School District, the largest in the country, has recognized this, appreciating the diverse community that we live in. And I consider Stamford as an extension of New York. So that's one of my requests. You will be getting a letter in the mail, Dr. Lucero, that my daughter actually has handwritten it. So if it doesn't arrive tomorrow, it should be on Monday, requesting on Diwali. So it's an opportune time to have this call. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it was a wonderful celebration. Thank you for having me.
Okay, next hand I see is Asma.
Yes, hi. Thank you very much for having this meeting and including us as a Muslim community. I would like to thank you, Dr. Tamil Lucero, for working hard on changing the calendar and making sure Eid al-Fitr is included in there. I just want to please ask you if you can please add the Eid al-Adha as well to the calendar, because our community big holidays, major holidays is Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha. Also, Eid al-Adha is one of the biggest holidays, and actually we celebrate within 3 days, but we are only asking for the first day of the Eid. This way, our kids will experience all that, and it's we consider it as like Christmas for Christians, because the kids get all those gifts and sit down and open it and enjoy the lamb and the whole process of it. And it's a very, very important for our kids to learn about the religion and their biggest holiday. As I want to also mention that the next town, like Bridgeport, they already recognize Eid al-Adha as a holiday, and they have a day off in their calendars for the kids to be home and enjoy the holiday. Also, New York City, just next door again, it's a big city, and also they recognize all these holidays in a calendar for all the kids to be home and celebrate the holiday and enjoy and learn about their religion and their holidays. And also, if you can please, basically, all I have to ask for, if just one day in the calendar, on the top of the Eid al-Fitr, also Eid al-Adha is very, very important to our children. As a parent of 2 little children, they just started school. I have a kindergartner and I have a first grader, and we have a long way to go. And right now, it might not be an issue, but in the future, if there is a test or whatever in the middle of the same day, they might have to skip school to be able to enjoy their religious, one of the biggest holidays in a year. And also our holidays have every year is a different day. It might fall in the summer, it might fall in the weekend. So it's not every year that we'll have to have those days in the calendar that has to be there, you know? So if I can please ask you to add the Eid al-Adha to the calendar. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Lana.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I would like to make two comments, if you don't mind. First of all, as you can hear by my accent, I'm also not American born, and I know there is a big and growing Ukrainian community in town, and many of the Ukrainians are actually Orthodox. They follow Christian Orthodox calendar. So my point is not to ask for additional day, but maybe to consider to have a floating day so member of different religious communities could choose what day their kids skip school. So for Jewish family, it could be Rosh Hashanah, or for Muslim parents, it could be their biggest holiday and stuff like that. And I'm sure that teachers should be able to accommodate with their learning schedule and with the class schedule. I have two children who have gone through Stanford Public School already, and one who is currently in high school. So I've been with Stanford Public School system long enough, and I've been very involved parent to probably recognize that on practical level, it could be done, it could be possible, at least no test on that day, or individual arrangements could be made. So again, with growing diversity in a city, what may happen is the school calendar will be extended well into the summer, well into end of June, if everybody's request is granted. Or some compromise should be made, and this is one of the compromises that I would like to put on the table. That's the first comment. And second is, a while ago, long ago, February break used to be a week. Now it is 3 days, one Friday and Monday, Tuesday of the next week. It is a huge, huge problem for parents who can take either full week off of work as a vacation or not at all. In other words, my family is in a situation that we can take either full week off of work or not at all. So my child or my children end up in a dead of winter having 3 days off of school with nothing to do and nowhere to go. And I wonder why the change was made in the first place, and whether or not it could be reversed to the way it's been, as in February holiday as the entire week off, or at least whatever day off are scheduled, have it on the same day. That's my kind of request.
Thank you so much. And I think you bring up some very valid points that I just want to acknowledge, that religious holidays are an excuse absence, and that's important for people to know. I know in my previous school district prior to coming to Stanford, there were certain rules written into policy and into regulations that said that no tests could be given on particular holidays, that you couldn't start a new unit on a particular holiday, and I can go back and look at all of the other things that were suggested. So I think that's really important for us to kind of put, because I don't remember, I think it was Lana who said it, but it could have been someone else, that, you know, if we put in everyone's suggestions here, and listen, we're a diverse community, I don't know that we're going to come to where everyone's going to be satisfied with what we recommend to the Board of Education, who ultimately makes this decision. But I do think that having some sort of ability for us to allow people to, if they do choose to take a holiday off, I keep lifting my hand and it raises my hand, sorry, that it would may help a little with this.
Okay, next hand raised is Paul.
Yes, hi. Thank you for getting this opportunity to speak today. I just want to say, with all due respect and with all cultures considered, we're all striving to be Americans. That's why you come to America. Now, taking away the American holidays to fit in other holidays just makes no sense to me. Let's figure it out where we can make everybody happy without removing anybody's holiday. That's my feeling. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, we're gonna take one last question. Then if anyone has any further comments, questions, please feel free to email Dr. Lucero or PT Council directly. Oh, I thought I saw a hand raised. It's gone.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Jax?
Thank you, Tracy. Good evening, Dr. Lucero. This is Jackie Latif Scully. Good evening, PT Council. Hi, everyone on the call. I just wanted to speak on behalf of Eid al-Adha, Eid al-Fitr, and also Diwali and the Lunar New Year. I know that no one brought that up as well, so I'm sorry to add one more to your pot. But yes, Mr. Paul, America is a blend of different cultures. We are a melting pot, and Stamford is no exception. And Muslims in Stamford, Hindus in Stamford, and our Asian Americans in Stamford. These are three communities that are big in Stamford. They contribute so much to our community in every single way, and they are everywhere in our schools. Their children are in our schools. We have Hindus in our schools. In every single school, we have Muslims in our schools, and we have Asian Americans in our schools. And their holidays are not being reflected on their school calendar. I don't think that it is equitable or fair at all for our children of Muslim and Hindu and Chinese and other Asian countries' descent to be told that their diversity and their uniqueness is important, but then that importance is not reflected in their schools or in their calendar. So Dr. Lucero, I am here tonight to speak on behalf of our Muslims to please add Eid al-Adha and Eid al-Fitr to the calendar. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of our Hindus in Stamford to please add Diwali to our calendar. We just finished celebrating Diwali. And I will tell you as a parent and also a substitute in our public schools that on Diwali, Dr. Lucero, our children, our Hindu children were there. They were in school, they were dressed up in their most beautiful attire, and they were missing out on their celebrations at home. And I'm also here to advocate for our Asian Americans and that their new year, the Lunar New Year, should be a day off as well, because I will tell you again as a parent and as someone who is deeply involved in their children's school, that on that day, those children are missing from classes and they are missing out on lessons because the teachers are not changing the curriculum on that day because those children are gone. So thank you for your time. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Hey, Dr. Lucero, an idea occurs to me as I listen to the discussion about
All right, you're getting ready to solve my problems here.
Well, I have a thought. You mentioned that religious holidays are an excused absence. Right? And there's plenty of conversation being had on, hey, what about this one? Hey, what about this one? Would it make sense to put all these holidays from Asian to Hispanic to African American to Irish to Italian, all of them on the calendar, not marked necessarily as days off, because there's some discussion back and forth about that, but with a marker on the calendar that reminds folks that it's an excused absence for kids?
I like that idea.
That is a great idea. At least just the simple acknowledgement that we see you will go a long way too.
I think that that's an excellent idea. And regardless of how this turns out, I do think that that's something we can do moving forward, because we all should recognize that there are holidays. And I think often they go past and people don't even realize they were there. So again, you always bring something amazing to the table. And so I appreciate your feedback.
Jackie, you have a comment?
Can you please repeat what you have said? I'm sorry.
So the only thing that we said is that maybe there should be a place on the calendar, even if we're not off school on that day, that acknowledges the different holidays. That's a good starting point for just the acknowledgement, so that people recognize that a holiday is happening for different communities on that particular day.
May I just comment
Got
real
it. That's a
quickly?
very good idea.
Yeah, I like it too.
Yes, Jackie.
So my only comment, and I think it's a great idea. If you're going to make it an excused day for whichever children celebrate whichever particular day, it's important to understand that teachers are still teaching, tests and exams are still going on. My son noted that her children, and my children too, I will tell you that it was SBAC season last year and it was Eid. And the choice would have to be made on whether or not our children would miss school and miss the SBAC testing, or take the SBAC and miss their celebrations at home with their families and their community. So it's great that we would excuse an absence because of someone's holiday, but it also, the concern is also on what happens in class. What is it that our children are missing out on, even though they are excused? So I just wanted to add that in there.
No, I think it's a good point, and I do think that if we're going to do something like this, we would have to require for certain things not to happen on those days and make that part of regulations and or a policy for the school district. All right. Tracy?
Yep, nope, I was just gonna wrap it up and say thank you to everyone who attended. And again, if you have questions or comments, please reach out to Dr. Lucero, PT Council, and anything else, Dr. Lucero?
No, I just want to sincerely thank everyone for coming here tonight. I tried to see when we had the most people on, and we had nearly 90 people on. And that just shows how important this is to everyone. And I appreciate the fact that you would take a Thursday night at after 8 o'clock and sit here and have this conversation. These aren't easy decisions to be made. I'm sure many people will be emailing me. The only thing that I ask is that you kindly share your opinion about these things. None of this is easy. And so I just will remind people that when you're sharing your thoughts and feedback, we want to hear you, but we also want you to be thoughtful in how you write things, because you don't have to tear down someone else to lift up your point. And so just want to acknowledge that in advance of receiving probably several emails over the next few days, which I welcome. I think that's important. So thank you all so much for taking your time this evening, and I hope to see you all very soon. Take care.
And thank you, panelists. We appreciate you coming on as well.
Yes, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. You all did an excellent job.
Thank you, ma'am. Great job.
you.
Good discussion.
Have a good night.
Everyone.
Night, everybody.
Thank you. Good